The Galactic Council kept a list. Every species that had ever achieved space travel was ranked on it. They called it the Predator Index. It measured how dangerous a species was, how likely they were to conquer others, how much the galaxy should fear them. For 3,000 years, the Velith Dominion sat at the top of that list. They were insect-like creatures with hard shells and compound eyes that saw in 12 spectrums. Their minds were linked together in a hive network. When one Velith learned something, all of them knew it within seconds. They had consumed 11 civilizations. Not conquered, consumed. They had eaten the populations of 11 worlds, added those worlds to their empire. The Council built its entire system around keeping the Velith happy. Tribute flowed to them from every corner of the galaxy. Trade routes bent around their space. No one challenged them. No one dared. Humanity appeared on the list about 200 years ago. A small note. A minor species from an unremarkable planet. Third rock from a yellow sun. The Council sent observers to watch them. The observers reported back that humans were soft. Their skin tore easily. They had no natural weapons. No claws, no venom, no armor. They lived short lives and spent most of that time fighting each other over resources and ideas. The Council placed humanity in the middle tiers of the Predator Index. Tool users, yes. Clever enough, yes. But nothing special. Nothing to worry about. When humanity finally built ships that could travel faster than light, they came to the Council like children arriving at a new school. Ambassador Chen Wei led the human delegation. He was a small man with gray hair and kind eyes. He bowed to the assembled species. He spoke softly. He asked questions about protocol and procedure. He made no demands. The Council assigned humanity a small territory on the edge of explored space. They explained the tribute system. Every species paid tribute to those above them on the Predator Index. Humanity would pay tribute to many. They would receive tribute from none. Ambassador Chen nodded and accepted these terms without argument. The Velith sent observers to the signing ceremony. 3 of them stood at the back of the chamber, their compound eyes tracking every movement the humans made. They were tall, nearly 8 feet. Their shells were dark purple, almost black. Their limbs ended in points sharp enough to pierce metal. One of the Velith commanders leaned toward his companion and made a clicking sound that served as speech. "These creatures remind me of the Korath," he said. His companion made a sound like grinding stones. It was the Velith version of laughter. The Korath were soft too. Good protein content, though. The Korath had been a peaceful species. Gentle beings with large eyes and kind hearts. The Velith had harvested them 2 centuries ago. Every single one. The Korath existed now only in history files and genetic samples. The Velith commander watched Ambassador Chen shake hands with Council representatives. The human's grip was weak. His smile was too wide. He looked like prey. "Perhaps in a few decades," the commander said, "when they have built up their population in that new territory, they might make for good harvesting." His companion agreed. Humans were soft. Humans were weak. Humans would be easy. Ambassador Chen saw the Velith watching him. He kept his face pleasant and calm. He shook more hands. He signed more documents. He accepted a small territory and an unfair tribute arrangement and a position at the bottom of galactic society. But that night, alone in his quarters on the human diplomatic ship, he opened a secure channel to Earth. He transmitted everything he had learned. The military structures, the economic systems, the political alliances. Most importantly, he transmitted detailed files on every species he had encountered. Their biology, their psychology, their strengths, their weaknesses. "We have made contact," he said into the recorder. "They see us as prey. They see us as weak. Let them continue to believe this. We have work to do. On Earth, in a bunker 3 miles underground, a committee of military leaders and scientists received the transmission. They began their analysis immediately. The Veloth are the primary threat, one general said. Everything else flows from them. Agreed, said a scientist. But look at their structure. The hive mind gives them coordination, but it might also be a weakness. Disrupt the network and you disrupt them all. They talked through the night. They made plans. They started projects that would take decades to complete. Above ground, the sun rose over a world that had just learned how small it was, how dangerous the universe could be, how close humanity had come to being harvested like the Korath. But the sun also rose over a species that had survived ice ages and plagues and wars, a species that had climbed down from trees and built cities and split the atom, a species that had never, in all its long and bloody history, accepted the role of prey. The humans smiled at their new galactic neighbors. They paid their tributes. They followed the rules, and they began to take notes. 50 years passed. In galactic terms, this was nothing. The oldest species in the Council had existed for millions of years. 50 years was the blink of an eye. Humanity remained quiet during those 50 years. They stayed in their small territory. They built colonies on a dozen worlds. They traded with their neighbors and paid their tributes on time. Every year they sent their brightest young people to study at council academies. The galaxy barely noticed them. This was exactly what humanity wanted. The young humans who studied at council academies asked many questions. Their teachers found this charming at first. Such curiosity, such eagerness to learn. The teachers answered their questions about science and history and politics. They explained how the galaxy worked. They shared knowledge that their own species had accumulated over thousands of years. They did not realize they were being studied in return. Every question the humans asked was carefully chosen. Every answer was recorded and transmitted back to Earth. Within a decade, humanity had built the most complete database of galactic species ever assembled. They knew the biology of every major civilization. They knew their technologies, their military doctrines, their cultural values. Their fears. On Earth, scientists worked in secret facilities that did not officially exist. They received the data from the academies. They analyzed it. They looked for patterns. The Mordath convert energy to matter, one researcher reported. Their process is inefficient. They lose 40% to heat waste. We can do better. The Kel breathe a methane-ammonia mix. Their ships require complex life support. Target the life support and their crews die within minutes. The Veloth hive mind operates on a specific frequency. We believe we can jam it. Or worse, corrupt it. Feed false information into the network. The military took these findings and built weapons. Not the crude weapons humanity had used against itself for centuries. New weapons. Weapons designed to exploit the weaknesses that the galaxy had revealed. But weapons were only part of the plan. In another facility, far from the weapons labs, different scientists worked on a different project. They called it the Nightmare Program. The Veloth had become apex predators through evolution. Their death world had shaped them over 1 billion years into perfect killing machines. Their shells could stop projectiles. Their senses could detect prey across vast distances. Their coordination made them unstoppable in battle. Humanity had no such evolutionary gifts. So they decided to build their own. The first generation of modified adaptive soldiers looked mostly human. From a distance, you might not notice anything wrong. But up close, you would see that their eyes reflected light strangely. You would notice that they moved too smoothly, that they reacted before you had finished speaking. As if they knew what you were going to say. The second generation was less subtle. Their bodies have been rebuilt at the cellular level. They could survive in vacuum for hours. They could see heat signatures through walls. They could heal from wounds that would kill a normal human in minutes. By the third generation, the scientists had stopped trying to make them look human at all. They are weapons, the project lead explained to a visiting general. Nothing more, nothing less. The general watched through reinforced glass as a third-generation soldier trained. It moved faster than his eyes could track. It dismantled combat drones with its bare hands. When a simulated Velith warrior attacked, the soldier killed it in under 3 seconds. Does it think? The general asked. Does it feel? It thinks tactically. It feels nothing that would interfere with its mission. We removed those pathways. Can it be controlled? It follows orders. It cannot be reasoned with. It cannot be bargained with. It will not stop until its target is dead. The general nodded slowly. How many do we have? Currently, 12,000 combat-ready units. Production is accelerating. Within 5 years, we will have 500,000. The general looked at the creature behind the glass. It had stopped moving. It stood perfectly still, watching them with eyes that glowed faintly in the dim light. The Velith call themselves predators, the general said. They think we are prey. Yes, sir. When do we show them otherwise? The project lead pulled up a timeline on his display. The final phase of preparation will take another decade. We need more soldiers, more ships, more weapons, and we need the galaxy to continue underestimating us. 10 years is a long time to pretend to be weak. It is. But when we move, sir, we will move with overwhelming force. The Velith will not have time to adapt. They will not have time to call for allies. They will barely have time to understand what is happening before it is over. The general considered this. He thought about the Goreth, harvested and eaten. He thought about the 11 other species the Velith had consumed. He thought about Ambassador Chen Wei, now an old man, still playing the role of humble supplicant on the galactic stage. Very well, he said. 10 years. But not a day longer. Back on the council station, a young human diplomat smiled at a Velith observer and asked another innocent question about hive mind. Communication frequencies. The observer answered without suspicion. The human was so eager to learn. So harmless. So weak. So very, very patient. The Velith declared a harvesting action on the human colony of New Brisbane. This was standard practice. A reminder to humanity of their place in the galaxy. A demonstration of power. 3 hive ships descended on a world of 4 million colonists. Each ship carried 10,000 Velith warriors. Each warrior was a killing machine shaped by 1 billion years of evolution. They expected the harvest to take 3 days. None of the ships reported back. The Dominion waited. They sent communication probes. Nothing. They scanned the planet from orbit. The colony was still there. The colonists were still alive, going about their daily lives as if nothing had happened. The 3 hive ships floated in orbit, silent, dead. A Velith commander was sent to investigate. He boarded the first ship with a squad of his best warriors. What he found ended his communication mid-report. The Dominion mobilized a battle fleet. 17 capital vessels. Hundreds of support ships. 2 million warriors. The largest military force they had assembled in a century. They would not underestimate the humans again. The fleet arrived at New Brisbane expecting a fight. Instead, they found the 3 hive ships arranged in a precise formation. Every Velith aboard had been killed. Their bodies had been positioned to spell a message in the Dominion's sacred script. The message read, "We learned from you. The war began." But it was not the war the Velith expected. They had fought many species over the millennia. They knew how wars worked. You massed your forces. You engaged the enemy. The stronger side won. Simple. Humanity did not fight like that. Their soldiers appeared from nowhere. They struck behind Velith lines. They destroyed supply depots and communication relays. They vanished before the Velith could respond. When the Dominion finally cornered a human force, the humans fought with weapons the Velith had never seen. Beams of energy that passed through their shells as if the armor did not exist. Projectiles that released clouds of nanomachines, eating through metal and flesh alike. Soldiers that moved too fast, saw too much. Killed too efficiently to be the soft humans the Velith remembered. The hive mind, which had always been the Velith's greatest weapon, became their greatest weakness. Human forces had cracked its frequency. They fed false information into the network. They made Velith warriors see enemies that were not there. They turned warriors against their own hive mates. The Dominion called for allies. Surely, the other apex predators of the galaxy would not allow this upset to the natural order. But the other species watched and waited. Some remembered how the Velith had treated them. Others calculated that helping a losing side was poor strategy. Humanity had planned for this 2.8 months after the Battle of New Brisbane. Human forces reached the Velith homeworld. The defenders expected a final desperate assault. They prepared for the bombardment that would reduce their cities to glass dot. It never came. Instead, humanity released something into the atmosphere. A virus, not a killing virus. Something worse. The virus targeted the neural structures that enabled the hive mind. It severed the connections that linked billions of Velith minds together. Within hours, every Velith on the planet experienced something their species had never known. They were alone. For the first time in their existence, they could not feel the presence of their hive mates. They could not share thoughts. They could not coordinate that they were individuals. Isolated, terrified. The screaming lasted for days. Some went mad. Some killed themselves. Some sat in catatonic silence, their minds unable to process an existence without the hive. The Velith had no concept of individual consciousness. They had no word for loneliness. They had no framework for being one instead of many. Humanity had not killed them. Humanity had done something far more terrible. They had made them understand what it meant to be alone. A human general stood on the steps of the Velith Capitol building, watching the chaos. His aide approached with a communication tablet. "The Council is demanding to speak with us," the aide said. "They want to know our terms." The general looked out at the broken empire. 3,000 years of Velith dominance ended in 8 months. 11 consumed species avenged. The galaxy's greatest predators reduced to whimpering individuals. "Tell them we will speak when we are ready," he said. "Let them wonder for a while." "Sir, they are frightened. Some are talking about preemptive strikes. They think we might be coming for them next." "Good. Let them think that. Fear keeps people reasonable." The aide hesitated. "Sir, some of our own people are frightened too. They saw what we did here, what we became to do it." The general did not respond immediately. He watched a Velith warrior stumble past, its eyes empty, its mind shattered. This creature had planned to harvest humans for food. It had looked at humanity and seen nothing but protein. Now it could not look at anything at all. "We became what we needed to become," the general finally said. "That is what humans do. We adapt. We survive. We win. At what cost?" The general turned to face his aide. His eyes were old, tired. He had given orders that ended an entire species' way of existence. He would carry that weight forever, at whatever cost was required, he said. "Now contact the Council. Tell them we are ready to discuss the future." The Galactic Council chamber had never been so quiet. Representatives from 100 species filled the seats. Some had held power for millions of years. Some had built empires that spanned thousands of worlds. All of them sat in silence, watching the human delegation enter. Ambassador Chen Yara walked to the central podium. She was the granddaughter of Chen Wei, the man who had first represented humanity to the galaxy. He had died 5 years ago, just long enough to see the beginning of the war he had helped plan. The villa section of the chamber was empty. Not symbolically empty. Actually empty. There was no one left to send. The species that had dominated galactic politics for 3 millennia existed now only as scattered individuals, unable to form the hive minds that had made them powerful, unable to do much of anything except exist and remember what they had lost. Chunyara looked out at the assembled species. She saw fear in their eyes. Different eyes from different evolutionary paths, but fear looked the same in all of them. Wide openings. Subtle movements away from perceived threats. Body language that screamed the desire to flee. She understood. She would have been afraid too. "You are frightened of us now," she said. Her voice was calm. Her face showed nothing. "You look at what we did to the Velith and you see monsters. You see the very thing you spent centuries fearing." No one responded. No one argued. The truth was obvious to everyone in the chamber. "You are not wrong," Chanyara continued. "We became exactly what we feared. We studied your apex predators. We analyzed how they rose to power. We built ourselves into something worse. We had to, because we understood something that your comfortable civilizations forgot." She pulled up a holographic display. Earth appeared, spinning slowly in the blue light. A small planet, unremarkable. The kind of world the Council's early surveys had dismissed as unimportant. Our world was never kind to us. We evolved alongside creatures with sharper teeth, stronger bodies, faster legs. We should have died 1,000 times over. Our ancestors faced predators that outmatched them in every physical way. They should have been prey. They should have been food. The display changed. It showed early humans, small and fragile, surrounded by beasts that could tear them apart with ease. But they did not become food. They became something else. When they faced predators, they became better predators. They made tools. They made weapons. They made traps. They learned to work together in ways no other species on our world could match. Every threat they faced, they adapted to overcome. The display shifted again. Human history flashed by. Wars, plagues, natural disasters. Every kind of catastrophe a species could face. We learned to become whatever we needed to become. That is what humans are. That is what we do. When we faced disease, we became doctors. When we faced starvation, we became farmers. When we faced each other, she paused. The chamber remained absolutely silent. When we faced each other, we became very good at killing. Too good. We nearly destroyed ourselves several times before we reached the stars. We thought that part of us was a flaw, a defect, a remnant of our brutal past that we needed to outgrow. Her expression hardened slightly. Then we met the Velith, and we realized that the galaxy was just another wilderness full of predators. So we became what we had always become. We became the most dangerous thing in our environment. She let that sink in. Some representatives shifted in their seats. Others simply stared. "The tribute system is dissolved," Chanyara said. "Effective immediately. Every species pays nothing to any other species. Trade will be conducted fairly, between equals. The territorial restrictions are void. Species will expand or contract based on their own choices, not assignments from above." Murmurs rippled through the chamber, some of outrage, some of relief. The tribute system had benefited those at the top, and crushed those at the bottom for longer than most species could remember. Humanity will take seats on every council committee. We will have a voice in every decision. Not the only voice, not the loudest voice, but a voice equal to any other. More murmurs. This was reasonable. This was fair. This was not what they had expected from the species that had just ended the most powerful empire in galactic history. In exchange, Chanyara said, we offer you something the Velith never did. The chamber fell silent again. Protection, peace, prosperity. The Velith demanded tribute. They gave nothing in return except the promise not to harvest you. Humanity offers a different arrangement. We will use our strength to defend those who cannot defend themselves. We will use our knowledge to help those who need help. We will be partners, not masters. She looked out at the frightened faces. We learned to be monsters because we had to. We built soldiers that feel nothing. We made weapons that break minds. We became the thing the galaxy feared most. But we also learned, eventually, to be something else. Her expression softened slightly. For the first time, she looked like what she was. A young woman. A diplomat. Someone who had grown up hearing stories about her grandfather's hope that humanity could be better. We learned to be kind. We learned to help each other. We learned that the strongest communities are built on trust, not fear. These lessons took us longer. We are still learning them. But we remember them. She spread her hands. We would rather teach you those lessons than the others. We would rather build a galaxy where species help each other instead of hunting each other. We would rather never make another weapon or fight another war. But the choice of which lesson you learn is yours. She looked at each section of the chamber in turn. Work with us, and we will be the best allies you have ever had. We will share our technology. We will defend your borders. We will help you grow and prosper. This is what we offer. This is what we hope for. Her voice hardened again. Challenge us, and you will learn the other lesson. The lesson the Velith learned. We do not want to teach it, but we will if we must. The chamber remained silent for a long moment. Then the voting began. It was unanimous. Every species, from the oldest to the youngest, voted to accept humanity's terms. Not because they trusted humans. Not because they believed the promises of protection and partnership. They voted yes because they had seen what happened to the Velith. They voted yes because they were afraid. But fear was only the beginning. Over the following decades, humanity kept its promises. They defended weaker species against aggression. They shared medical technology that extended lifespans. They built trade networks that made everyone richer. Slowly, fear became respect. Respect became gratitude. Gratitude became something like trust. 100 years after the fall of the Velith, a young alien diplomat asked an old human historian how humanity had done it. How they had transformed from prey into the galaxy's protectors. The historian thought for a long moment. We became what we feared, he finally said. And then we became what we hoped we could be. That is the human story. We adapt. We survive. We grow. We are not finished growing yet. The diplomat nodded slowly. Outside the window, ships from a dozen species moved through space together. A galaxy that had once been ruled by fear was learning to be ruled by something better. Humanity had become the apex predator, and they had used that power to make sure nothing would ever prey on anyone again.